And I certainly find as an artist, I kind of move with the seasons. That in the summer I like to paint golden hour scenes, but now we're coming into autumn. Let's do something with a bit of an autumnal feel. So let's just work out where things are going to be. My reference is A4 with this panel. It's just a little bit smaller, so I'll have to make a few little adjustments so I can fit everything in. But I've kind of got an A composition. There's a bit of an A there that takes us into the scene. And we've got then these layers, these fields, again, all just taking us into the landscape, and then the verticals up here. So that's basically where everything's going to be. So I shall start with the sky. Normally I'll aim to paint the sky in between here, but I think what I'll do, I shall try paint the sky, not put too much paint on here, and then I'll wipe back and just wipe out where the trees are going to be. Maybe try that. So this reference was based on a photograph that I took the other day. That was the photo, and I mixed it in Mid-Journey with one of my oil paintings, and it gave me a nicer reference image with better colours. So that's a reminder for myself to get better at photography. I've been looking at cameras this week, and but I know, as in same with art, having a good camera won't make me a good photographer. I need to learn how to take photographs. I've got a very old Nikon D3100, which I bought second hand years and years ago, and never really used it in anger. Just but I've been experimenting and taking a few photos, and it actually takes some quite nice photos, and probably in the right hands it's a good camera. But technology does move on. As some of you have seen, I've had a bit of an exhibition, an art exhibition this week. So hopefully, if I sell a painting, I can reinvest that into a new camera maybe. So back to the demo. What's going on? So this is the very distant part of the painting, the sky here. So it's all very soft, and this is creating all that atmosphere here. And I suppose I'm looking at the reference image and just envisioning this without seeing all this in front. What would it look like without these trees and everything here? So that's what I'm painting, and then we'll paint over the top of that. And I can probably paint, this is very thin, the paint I'm putting on here, so I can probably just paint over the top of that. Okay. So now it starts to get a little bit darker in tone. There is actually a field across there. So just add a bit more paint, and perhaps a bit of red and green, just to, not too much red, it needs to stay towards blue, so that's too dark. So this is where it's really important to get the right tonal values. It just needs to be a little bit darker. So I just wanted to take away a little bit of that blue. So by adding, pretty much anything really to it, it'll, the red and the green, basically it's brown. If I had brown on my palette here, I would have put some brown in it. But you don't need brown necessarily, because you can make it. But there's no reason why. I just probably forgot to put brown on. So rows of trees through there. And again, I'm just envisioning what's going on here without worrying about anything else at the moment, just painting the shapes and the values I see. And most of this will end up being covered by other stuff, but some of it will come through.
So hopefully you're enjoying this video. Please do hit that like and subscribe. Don't forget the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. And don't forget to check out those links in the description if you want to paint along with me, perhaps on a live stream, and have access to a huge library of full demonstrations like this.
Start to go towards a minty green. So the greens I've got on here are Viridian, Sap Green, Olive Green and Terre Verte, earthy green. And we've got Titanium White, Primary Yellow, Cadmium Orange, Cyan Crimson and Ultramarine Blue. So I think possibly the Viridian being quite a cool green mixed into there. So it's too blue, so I'll add a bit of yellow. Needs to be a little bit lighter in value, so add some white. That's pretty good. So there's a field across there. Another one overlaps here. So that's, does that need to be a little bit lighter in value? I think possibly does. Let's just go knock that back a little bit, because if we don't get the values right, it causes problems elsewhere in the painting, which means you have to just go darker everywhere else, which I don't necessarily want to do. And then we've got some warmer colours here, but still, you know, although it's red, which is obviously a warm colour, it's still very cool in comparison to over here. So I've just mixed a little bit of red into that cool mix I had there, and that's what I like about this paint, this color scheme. I like the composition of the photograph I took, but I like the colors in the image here that I actually used the oil painting of the little house I did, which had very similar colors to this, as the image to add with the photograph on Midjourney. But you know, eventually I would like to move away from Midjourney, a lot of it, and take my own photos and just paint from those. But I think Midjourney probably will always have a little place for coming up with interesting designs. But obviously the more we can do ourselves, the better. So now we've got these trees here, which let's use, and I've put all these greens on. It's a bit overkill, all these greens, but I want to just try and experiment with these greens I've got. So let's try some of that olive green, which I think will, it has more white in it, I think, so it might desaturate it a little bit, which is good. And a bit of red. So again, let's just paint shapes. I see a triangle. Obviously I've allowed for the white that's already on the panel here to mix in with that dark, so I went slightly darker than it needed to be. There's the dark there, and then we've still got cool green, so I'll use that Viridian. Again, kind of just got to anticipate what's going to happen with what paint you already have on your panel. A bit of orange, warm that up a little bit. Yeah, the orange is a new one for me. I've only put it on there, and that's what I do. I try new colours, and then I'll just always have them on my palette for a little while. And the best way to learn what that colour is going to do and how it reacts with other pigments is just to paint with it. You know, learn on the job. And you know, I can come back to that and put more detail in. And the sap green is more of a proper green. So here we've got our maximum contrast with this tree. Just lay that paint on top because we don't want it to I'll put the branches in afterwards. Again, it's cool, so more blue. Some long bits of grass there, but we want the eye to be able to just travel through. You know, and this composition is actually probably better than the photograph I took, because you know we can go through the valley here and off into the distance. And that's something I think I probably realised doing all these master studies, is that a lot of the time the artists probably didn't have the perfect scene in front of them, so they would have changed things to make it a good scene, you know, change the composition. And I think that's why I'm quite drawn to the idea of doing a bit more photography, is because it shares a lot of things with art. You know, that you need a good composition, good lighting for the scene to work. And that's so true with painting. That, you know, we can paint this so well, but if our composition wasn't good and the light wasn't good, you know, it just wouldn't work. So we've got some red through here, and colour harmony, you know, so important in the sort of the painting styles that I like. I've actually put that in the wrong place, haven't I? That goes there, so we don't actually need that there, but it's fine. Alright, so that takes us across to here to where all that fallen tree is. You know, we're not going to be painting every little individual branch. This is just indicating where things are. And you know, that's what I'm doing. I'm indicating. I'm not stating things here. I'm not drawing branches or whatever else. I'm just putting shapes in that could be a branch, maybe. So let's put that foreground in here. So again, we've got good mixtures of greens. There's some cool green and warm green. Now, the cool and warm colours together, they look great. Brush going off in all sorts of directions, connecting up to that dark there, you know, connection through the painting. Let's go for a bit of that violet. Bit more viridian. And by the time now I've mixed all of these different colours into here, I've got just some random green, and I'd have to rewatch the video to see how I mix that colour. That's a question I get asked all the time. You know, how did you get to that colour and so on, but I never really know, because I'm just instinctively mixing and seeing what happens. And we've got some orange down here. And that's now, you know, we've got some fairly cool greens in there. Now the warm orange. That's rattling. May well come back to that, but possibly not. We'll see. So now we've got some darks. So I can perhaps go with this sap green, put it into that pile of blue there. So we've got nice strong contrast here, and almost a sharp edge of light and dark. And I'm painting on a oil primed wooden panel. Could paint on canvas, be much the same. So again, just painting what I see, dark shape through here. And then more of a dark blue. This main tree here. It goes up there. Just lay that paint on nice and thick. Add a bit of yellow into that. And another tree there. And it's best not to try and say replicate all of these trees in here. I've actually got a little bit less room here than what's here because I'm working on a smaller panel, so I'll just paint as many as I can fit in. Tree there. Just a warm purpley grey for these branches now that are coming out of here. Using the rigger for that. Keep reloading the brush because I'm picking up the white from that sky. So I think, it's important, don't go too thick with the paint in the sky because it will make this part difficult. Just push down on this rigger just to make the end of the brush go like that, and push against the canvas maybe, and there we go, painting highly detailed little leaves and twigs and so on. Add a bit of connection, twigs going off in all sorts of directions. See some blue, more sort of same as what I've just done there, but they're further away, so like the distant trees there, adds a bit more depth to the scene. I still need to make sure I leave some light to come through. Some lovely warm greens here, so let's have a go with perhaps the orange and the blue. I guess there's a nice warm green. Just roll that brush on there and create some interesting textures that could be moss and so on. And we're just building the picture by just adding shapes As long as the tone values are accurate and the shape is fairly accurate. And just keep going, and eventually you'll end up with a painting. That works quite well, just rolling the brush down the panel. So, more orange, more blue, and I think we probably need to give it, it's a bit too transparent, so let's add some of this olive green in there. Give it a bit more body, but if I added white, it'd desaturate it too much. So perhaps by adding the olive green, it'll keep it on the green side. And it seemed quite a warm green, that olive green. That's quite nice. More of a green over there. So there's lots and lots of different greens in this painting. Some cool, some warm, and I'm just mixing one colour into another colour to get those, you know, and they're not all exactly what's there, but it's just a good variation. Is what I can see there. The darks, get the darks in. That's quite a nice sense of light in here. But we need those darks to achieve that. And a little bit of white into that. And if we put these lighter areas over a darker area, it'll have more effect. Maybe look like a branch sticking out. I'd like to maybe throw a few branches across, help to direct the eye where we want it to go. A few branches come in from above. Block that off a little bit. Keep the eye in the painting. Back to the foreground. So we've got some flicks of grass there, maybe the rigger on its side. Try that. That's what I do in watercolour. this fallen tree has got its roots sticking up. A rigger like that is a great tool for creating abstract shapes. And I'm all for abstract, not necessarily abstract paintings don't necessarily appeal to me, but abstracting your work, as in things that look like things, but abstraction in the brushwork. That's what I like. I'll put some of that colour through here, which will just unify the painting a little bit. So you just experiment, with your brushes, just try things. Yeah, if it's a disaster, just wipe it off. If it looks good, keep it. Darker. Just have in your mind, there is no right or wrong way. Now, if something works, that's good. So there's a dark there, which gives the opportunity to put a branch across there. Scratching out on a white panel, so we will get ground that I've put on there show through, and it probably looks okay doing a little bit, but too much. I think scratching out just looks. So I'll probably just paint branches up into those, but to look all right. Some darks in there. We said that before, that quite often, you put your darks in and then you lose them because you're putting other areas in. So it's not a problem. You just got to go back and just put them back in if you have lost them. So I think I'm going to just soften that a little bit in there. I'm just going to take, this is an old watercolour brush, and the sable, so it's very soft. I think just softening that a little bit, I think would be good. Not everywhere, just So never throw away your old brushes that are a little bit tired looking, because they will help you to create some interesting marks. I do find the faster I paint, the more abstract and loose things become. It does take a little bit of confidence to paint quickly. So you just try stuff sometimes. If it didn't work, so I think I'm probably fine there. I think I would like to get rid of some of those scratched out marks. I'm not so keen on those. Leave some of them. Right, that's enough for that. Let's just put a few trees off in the distance there. So back to cool blue. I think that's going to work quite well to take the eye through the distance there. So we've got trees, possibly a little bit dark in tone. Let's just lighten it. And just seeing a little bit of minty green across there, maybe just over that morning frost. It's so difficult to finish a painting because it's such good fun painting. Just want to keep going, but you've got to stop. That blue that's coming through the trees there. I will stop painting in a moment. Maybe a slightly darker green coming through there. I do quite like the orange that I had on here. As long as you're fairly careful, you can play about with your paintings and not end up with mud. And you can end up with something that looks fairly detailed, although you haven't painted any detail. Just now seeing some purples. Just need to get a few darks back in the foreground. I shall be telling myself off for playing with it too much. quite often what happens is that you think, oh, I want to make that better, like I've done with the foreground here, and you end up just bringing it back to where it was. So you probably should just left it as it was. Because that's probably fine. But if you only need 1 or 2 blades of grass to really give the impression that you've actually painted every blade of grass. So there you go, that came out quite nice, and the rigger certainly helped, and that's just a Rosemary & Co. evergreen rigger. I'm not sure what size it is, it's quite a small one, but probably not a bad idea to have a few different sizes, and I say when they get worn out a little bit, that they can produce quite nice brush marks. So, but a lot of that is just, again, right tonal values, right sort of shape in the right place, and not be too worried about detail, and it will all just come together. So good luck if you decide to give it a go, and I shall see you on the next video.
There you go. Good luck with your painting. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe, and if you enjoyed this video, you'll love this one.